If you have ever wondered, why should I wait for the Lord any longer? I have waited long enough. I have suffered long enough. I've been through what I'm going through long enough. This is long suffering. I don't like it. I don't want it anymore. I'm about to quit. I'm about to I don't know. Where is he at? This has been going on for too long. You are going to be so encouraged. At least I pray. I pray that you're going to be so encouraged by this particular episode. I am begging you, please, to read 2 Kings chapter 6 and chapter 7. And look at the end of that when there was a famine. There was a severe famine that was going on in the land. And I just love, oh my goodness, 2 Kings is probably one of my favorite books of the Bible. But there was a major famine going on. And the premise of it is the king of Aram mobilized an entire army, and they marched up and had some sort of a siege in Samaria. The famine was so bad. I wish I could tell you, I don't think I'm allowed to say on a podcast what they had to do in order to survive. But when you read it, just go to 2 Kings chapter 6 and start in verse 24. When you read it, you'll see for yourself what they had to do in order to survive. It was just that bad. So the premise of this is, I love what the king said at the end of chapter 6. I think it's verse 23 or so. He was getting so fed up with Elijah because he's basically like, why should I wait for the Lord any longer? This is what the king said, like, why should I even wait? So he literally was going to go in and just take Elijah out. But Elijah, being an amazing man of God, I just absolutely love him. He says, hear the word of the Lord. I'm in chapter 7, verse 1. This is what the Lord says. About this time tomorrow, a seah of flour will sell for a shekel, and 2 sahs of barley for a shekel at the gate of Samaria. Now, I don't know how much a seah and a shekel and all that is. I probably should know at this point because I actually used to know that. I just can't remember the exact amount of what that comes to, but it's cheap. And if you read chapter 6 and you look through what things were selling for, seeds of pod was selling for 5 shekels. So that's almost like saying, I don't know, today a loaf of bread is, I don't know, let's just say $100. And tomorrow this loaf of bread is going to be only $3 or something. Now my numbers may be off. So biblical scholars, please don't comment about my math not being exactly right. But the premise is there was a severe famine. Things were way overpriced. That we can be in agreement on. Things were so bad, people had to do things they'd never done before in order to survive. And the premise of it is the king said, why should I wait for the Lord any longer? The premise of it, Elijah's life was in danger at that point. And the premise of this is Elijah said, basically, by this time tomorrow, things are going to be back to normal. Things are going to be probably even better. So here's what I love about this. And I want to make sure I read this. So the officer on whose arm that the king was leaning said, this is what he said to Elijah. He says, look, even if the Lord should, so he already doubting. Let's just stop there a moment. Even if the Lord should open the floodgates of the heavens, could this happen? Like what kind of God you serve? Oh, Lord, what kind of God do you serve that can change this mess around in one day? That's pretty much what this officer was saying. He said, is it possible that this can even happen? Now, Elijah was kind of a little offended by that because Elijah said, you will see it with your own eyes, answered Elijah, but you will not eat any of it. And we'll talk about that in a minute because I'll get to that part by why Elijah responded like that. So in other words, you doubting God? You doubting the power of my God? Okay. You're going to see it, but you won't enjoy any of it. So the story goes on, and I don't want to take up too much of you guys' time, but I want you to just soak your teeth into it. This is not entertainment with me talking to you guys. I'm not trying to entertain anyone. I'm not trying to pump you up like a cheerleader, throw some false motivation at you. I'm not. I'm genuinely excited in my spirit because I'm reminded of how God has changed so many things in my life when I saw no way out. There was times where I literally did not know how I am going to make it. And the next day God did some things and I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. So I'm trying my best with everything, with the strength that God has given me to open your eyes, to help you to open your eyes so that you can be encouraged and understand that if you're going through hard times, if you don't have a dime in your account, maybe you got a lot of money, but your hard times is in relationships, or maybe, I don't know, could be whatever it is you're going through. Could be your health, could be something else. I just want to gently encourage you. The God that we serve, if it is his will, he has the power to do things you could never ask or imagine and change your situation around in an instant. So back to the story. Let me not drift. And by the way, my name is Z. My name is Zenja Glass. You're listening to Unlocking Greatness Podcast with Zenja Glass. Some of you might be listening on my podcast platforms, and some of you might be watching me on YouTube at this point. So if you hear some papers rattling, I apologize for those who are just listening to the podcast, because you're probably hearing my Bible pages turn. So anyway, let me get back to this, because I didn't even get to the juice of this story, which excites me. So imagine the king is saying, why should I wait any longer, right? Elijah, his life at this point is on the line. And Elijah's telling the king, wait, give it one more day. By this time tomorrow, things are going to change. So there was 4 men. I guess these men had leprosy or something. And the premise of the story, again, I'm in chapter 7 at this point. These 4 men basically said, hey, if we stay here where we're at, we're going to die. We may as well go into the camp of our enemies. And I'm paraphrasing at this point. And they're either going to kill us, which, we're going to be taken out anyway, or perhaps they'll feed us. That pretty much was their logic, right? And when they went into the camp, this is part, I got to put my glasses on because I cannot misquote a passage. Check this out. I am in 2 Kings chapter 7, and I am in verse 5. At dusk, they got up and went to the camp of the Arameans. When they reached the edge of the camp, not a man was there. Mind you, they're in enemy territory at this point. It says, when they reached the edge of the camp, not a man was there. For the Lord had caused the Arameans to hear the sound of chariots and horses and a great army, so that they said to one another, look, the king of Israel has hired the Hittite and the Egyptian kings to attack us. So they got up and fled in the dusk and abandoned their tents and horses and donkeys. They left the camp as it was and ran for their lives. And then it just goes on to talk about the men who had leprosy went into the camp. They ate, they drank, they had silver, they had gold, they had clothes. Like all of the plunder was left behind, all of the plunder. So when they finally delivered this news over to the king, the king was a little afraid, because he basically was like, wait a minute, I think that they're just trying to trick us. They know that we're starving. I'm in verse 12 now. They know that we're starving. So they have left the camp to hide in the countryside, thinking they will surely come, and then we'll take them alive and we'll get them in the city. So I'm going somewhere with this. Even when God had delivered, as Elijah said, the king was still afraid. He had doubts, and he was just like, wait a minute, how is this even possible? I don't know if you've ever been in that kind of a situation where God blessed you unexpectedly, or maybe a situation or an opportunity. Maybe an opportunity has presented itself to you, and you scared. It looks good, and hey, maybe this could be the answer to my prayer, but I don't know. I'm not sure if this is really from God. Is this a setup? Because that's basically what this king was going through, right? So the premise of this is basically they went on down into the city, and sure enough, the people really had fled. And they left all their plunder. It says, then the people, I'm in verse 16, then the people went out and plundered the camp of the Arameans. So a sea of flour sold for a shekel, and 2 seahs of barley sold for a shekel, as the Lord had said. And then, remember that one officer I talked about earlier? The one that said to Elijah, basically in a nutshell, what did he say? In a nutshell, hey, is this even possible? Can something like this even happen? Well, the king had put that officer, I think, in charge of the gate. I want to get this right, because I know if I quote something wrong, you guys would chew me alive. But to my memory, the king, okay, here it is. I'm in verse 17. Now the king who had put the officer on whose arm he leaned in charge of the gate, and the people trampled him in the gateway, and he died, just as the man of God had foretold when the king came down to his house. Now that ends on sort of a sour note, but the point is that person doubted that God would be able to do it. And Elisha told him, you're going to see it, but you won't get any of it. So you may say, where am I going with this? Hopefully light bulbs are just already going off in your head. What I'm encouraged by with this is the power that God has to make changes in our lives in an instant. He can change your situation right now. I don't care how dire it is. I don't care what it is, whether it's, and when I say I don't care, you know what I mean by that. It's not that I don't care, but I'm just saying no matter what the situation is, if you're out of work, if you're going through some serious health issues, relationship issues, maybe just issues in your faith, maybe dealing with your kids, maybe dealing with spouse, maybe dealing with friends, could be, just some situations going on at your job, or it could be that you've got a great job, but you just, not happy with it. It could be that, you're experiencing being homeless right now. If you watch my previous film, I talked about that when I recalled myself, when my family, when I was younger, when we were homeless and eating out of pantries, and how in 1 year we moved 22 times. So I understand hardship. I've been there as a younger person with my mom when she was a single parent. But anyway, whatever the situation is, what I'm trying to get at is that God has the power to change it in one day. Now, I can hear some of you saying, hey, he can change it in 1 second, and we all know that's true. But I'm just lining it up with this story in the Bible. I am praying that you get into your Bible and you read it for yourself. There's a passage somewhere in the Bible where the Bereans were of more noble character than the Thessalonians because they examined the scriptures to see if what the Apostle Paul said was true. Can't remember the exact passage. I don't want to misquote it. But what's amazing about that is they were considered of more noble character because they examined to see if what he said is true. So I'm telling you, examine it. Get into 2 Kings chapter 6, chapter 7. Read it. Read before what happened. Read after. And take a look at what happened in that famine. Take a look at what they were eating during that famine. Take a look at how things were selling during that time. And take a look at how the king responded and what Elijah said. And how God, and here's what's so, oh my goodness, this is the part that just warms my spirit. Let me just slow this down a minute because I feel like I'm rushing and I don't want to rush this. It really wasn't anything that they did themselves that produced the change. Sometimes we can think we're so intelligent we can figure it out ourselves. Or we're such hard workers, I'll get 3 jobs, I'll figure this out myself. Or we have the answers because we know what's best. They didn't figure it out. That's the part that I love. If you watched any of these videos or listened to my podcast, most of the changes in my life and things I've gone through, oh my goodness, and times where God's put me out of some of the hardest times in my life, really had very little to do with me, to be quite honest with you. It was the sheer grace of God rescuing me, changing the situation, doing this, doing that. Even this podcast. I'm a private person. I don't like getting on social media. But you know what? God put in my spirit, get on here and do this. So the point I'm getting at is that when the people that had leprosy went into the enemy's camp, they were going there really in a way of just surrendering. If you don't read any verse, just read just one thing for me. Read 2 Kings chapter 7. And if you say, Z, I'm only going to give I've had some people say, I don't even believe in God. I don't know much about believing in the Bible. Okay, fine. Just read one passage, just to appease me if you have to. 2 Kings chapter 7, verse 6. For the Lord had caused the Arameans to hear the sound of chariots and horses and a great army, so that they said to one another, and then it goes on to talk about basically we're under attack. The Lord had caused them to hear. Now, if that don't shake you, I don't know what will. The Lord moved in the enemy's camp and caused them to make a decision that ended up being a blessing for Elijah and everyone else. So they didn't even have to do anything. They just had to keep waiting on the Lord. I just want to end this, and I'm just begging you. I just feel in my spirit. Some people are so tired. And I know this. I've been getting messages from you guys. And don't think I don't read those messages. I can't reply to all of them because it's a lot that comes in from all my channels. But don't think I don't read each and every last one of them. I actually do, to be quite honest with you. So many people are thinking of feeling like giving up, feeling like they've been struggling for so long. They've been in a hole for so long. They just are like, I've just been going through these issues for so long. When is God going to come? I am praying that you are uplifted, that you are encouraged, and that you continue to give him another day, and you give him another day, and you give him another day, and you continue to trust that God is going to deliver you. I love you all. Sorry this was a little longer than normal, but God put this message in my heart, and I just said, okay, I'm going to talk about it. And just so you guys know, if you give me just another 10 seconds of your time, I don't plan out these lessons. I literally just sit and just say, God, what do you want me to talk about? So I went on a lunch break today, and I was sitting for a while, and finally at the very end, God put in my heart, you really need to go over this. And so that's why I'm doing this. But anyway, I hope you guys are encouraged. Love you all. This is Z with Unlocking Greatness Podcast. Bye-bye. Hi, everyone. This is Z again. Do not forget to hit the like, subscribe, and the notification button. Bye-bye.